Tangled in Tuscany. Chapter 16. The Woman in the Photograph. Sophia hadn't planned to print the photograph. It had slipped out when she was reorganizing her temporary workspace, an unused storage alcove near the main cellar, where she'd hung test prints and arranged her gear in a way that made the chaos feel almost intentional. The photo had been wedged between two larger matte sheets, a forgotten moment from the first week she arrived. She'd printed it to test tones, never intending to keep it. But something about the composition, his silhouette against the slant of Tuscan light, the edges of fatigue and grit on his jaw, made her pause. It wasn't flattering. It wasn't even focused properly. But it was true. She'd left it clipped to a string of twine above her desk, meaning to file it away, then forgot. Until now. Sophia. She turned at the sound of his voice. Luca stood in the alcove's entry, half in shadow, holding the photo between two fingers. He hadn't changed out of his work shirt yet, sleeves still rolled, chest speckled with dust. His brow furrowed slightly, not with anger, but something quieter. Puzzled, disarmed. "I didn't know you kept this," he said. Sophia blinked. "It wasn't intentional. I was printing tone studies and you caught me off guard." He looked back at the photo. "I didn't even know you took it." She shifted on her feet. "It was from that first morning. After you finished setting up the crates, you were walking toward the slope. The light just hit a certain way." He didn't say anything right away. Instead, he studied the image for another moment, then looked up. "What do you see when you look at me like this?" Her breath caught. It wasn't a challenge. His voice was low, steady, curious, a little raw. Sophia stepped closer, brushing sawdust from her sweatshirt. "Honestly." Luca nodded once. She swallowed. "I see someone trying not to drown in a place that still matters too much to walk away from." His eyes didn't move from hers. "I see someone who carries silence like armor," she added, more quietly. "But who doesn't fool me as much as he thinks he does." Luca's jaw flexed, but he said nothing. Sophia glanced away. It's a strange thing, photographing people. You think you're catching a look, a moment, but really, you're revealing what they try hardest to hide. He lowered the photo slowly. "You're saying I hide? Everyone does. But you see it." "Sometimes," she said, "when I'm not too busy pretending I don't." A beat passed. The light in the alcove dimmed slightly as a cloud passed outside, softening the edges of the room. Behind Luca, the cellar hallway flickered with sun glint, and the sound of barrels being shifted echoed faintly through the stone. Luca leaned against the doorframe, folding the photo once and tucking it in his back pocket. "No one's ever looked at me like that before." Sophia arched a brow. "That's hard to believe." "I mean it." He was serious now. "People see the vineyard, the name, the legacy, even my family. But you saw the cracks before I did." She gave a small smile. "You showed them. Not on purpose. Doesn't matter." He pushed off the frame and took a step into the alcove. The space narrowed with his presence, not in a threatening way, but charged. The way air thickens before a summer storm. Sophia held her ground, heart tripping just slightly. "I keep thinking about the other night," Luca said, voice lower now. "The dinner, the walk, your hand in mine." She nodded once. "Me too. It wasn't planned. None of this is." "I know. And it scares me," he admitted. "Because it's not just about attraction." Her pulse jumped. He reached up slowly, brushing a speck of lint from her shoulder. His fingers didn't linger, but the echo of the touch did. "Do you ever miss New York?" he asked, shifting the mood gently. Sophia tipped her head, considering. "I miss the skyline, the late-night walks, the feeling that something could always happen." She paused, then added, "But that kind of hunger, it wears on you." Luca's brow lifted. "Hunger? For the next thing? The next show, the next review, the next person who might look at you like you matter." She rubbed her thumb over a smooth patch of stone behind her. "It's exhausting, always needing to be visible to feel real." He was quiet for a beat. "And here?" he asked softly. She met his gaze. Here I can disappear and still be seen. He stepped a fraction closer. Close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his eyes. "Real looks good on you," he said softly. They stood in silence again, the kind that trembles with something waiting to break. "I should get back to sorting," she said finally, her voice quieter than she meant. He nodded, but didn't move. "Sophia?" "Yeah. I don't know what this is yet, or what it's supposed to be." She looked up at him. "Neither do I. But I want to find out." A long pause. Then, with quiet intention, she reached for his hand. Not with urgency, but with calm. Fingers laced. A small, deliberate touch. Nothing more. It was enough. The hallway outside buzzed again with vineyard sounds. Barrels creaking. Someone calling Chiara's name. A radio playing something in Italian with too much trumpet. But in the alcove, time stilled. Luca gave her hand a gentle squeeze before releasing it. "I'll see you at dinner," he asked. She smiled. "Yeah. I'll be there." He stepped back into the hall, the air shifting around him like gravity retreating. Sophia leaned against the wall, hands still tingling. She didn't know where they were going, or how fast. But for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of the next step. The sun had dipped low by the time Sophia emerged from the cellar. Shadows stretched long across the stone courtyard, and golden light filtered through the pergola vines, catching on the dust motes still clinging to her sweatshirt. Her fingers still remembered the weight of his hand, the way he'd held her gaze after saying he wanted to find out what this was. She wasn't ready to name it, but it had taken root. And that was enough. Sophia made her way toward the slope behind the main house. A quiet path shaded by olive trees, with an abandoned trellis arching overhead. It was where she sometimes went to catch her breath when the world felt too heavy or too still. She half expected to be alone. She wasn't. Luca was there, leaning against one of the old stone walls, arms crossed, gaze distant. The rolled sleeves of his shirt were loosened now, collar slightly open, the day's dust still clinging to the seams. He looked up when he heard her steps, his mouth curving into something not quite a smile, something quieter. "I figured you might come this way," he said. Sophia paused near the trellis. "You know my patterns now. I know how you walk when you're thinking." She tilted her head. "How's that?" "Lighter. Like you're about to lift off and vanish." Her breath caught, but she kept her tone dry. "That sounds inconvenient." He pushed off the wall and stepped closer, not too close, but enough that she could smell the earth and sun on his skin. "Sometimes I think you already did. Vanish, I mean. From wherever you were before." Sophia met his eyes, something fragile flickering between them. "Maybe I did." He studied her for a long moment. Then, almost reluctantly, he said, "That photo, it shook me." She nodded once. "I know. I keep thinking about how you saw me when I didn't know you were looking." "You weren't hiding," she said. "Not really. Just not expecting to be seen." The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it hummed. Something warm, alive. Luca stepped past her slowly, brushing his hand along the side of the trellis as he went. She followed, wordless, until they reached the edge of the trees. The vines rolled out before them in deep green waves, kissed by the last threads of sunlight. From here, the vineyard looked eternal, timeless and still, but nothing felt still between them. Luca stopped, turning to face her again, his eyes searching hers. "Sophia," he said, voice rough, "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. Not since the fire, not since the kiss, not since long before. If I'm honest." She felt her pulse skip. "I've tried to keep space," he added, "tried to be careful. But I keep failing." Sophia stepped closer. "Maybe it's not failure. Maybe it's just honesty." A pause. Then, slowly, she lifted her hand to his collar, fingertips brushing the top button. Not unbuttoning, just resting there. His breath caught. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "Do you want me to stop?" His eyes darkened, but he didn't move away. "No." She undid one button, then another. Not rushed, not bold, just deliberate. Luca closed the small space between them, his hand finding the curve of her waist, his other gently tilting her face toward his. Their lips met, not with the sweet hesitation of the courtyard kiss, but with something deeper, hungrier, more knowing. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't dramatic. It was earned. Her hands slid into his hair, and he groaned low in his throat, as if the release of tension was too much to hold all at once. His mouth traced the line of her jaw, then returned to hers, deeper this time. They broke apart only briefly, long enough for breath, for a look. Then again, he kissed her. Again, she melted forward. The trellis offered enough shade to keep them hidden, the stone wall behind her cool against her back, as he guided her gently toward it. His touch wasn't demanding, only sure, like he had stopped running from the gravity between them. Sophia's fingers slipped beneath the open edge of his shirt, feeling the heat of his skin. He hissed softly, forehead resting against hers. "I'm not good at this," he whispered. "At letting go." "I know," she whispered back. "You don't have to be good. Just honest." His hand slowed, one rising to brush her cheek, to tuck her hair behind her ear. He kissed her again, this time more tender, a contrast to the hunger moments before. His touch now was reverent, intentional. She wasn't a dare, she wasn't a distraction. She was the thing he hadn't known how much he needed, until he stopped pretending he didn't. They stood that way for a while, lips brushing, breaths mingling, hearts aligned in rhythm neither of them had been ready for until now. Eventually, his hand slipped from her cheek to her shoulder, resting there with the kind of steadiness that made her feel anchored. Sophia looked up at him. "Tell me something true." Luca didn't blink. "I don't feel like I'm losing anything when I'm with you." Her chest ached with the force of it. She touched his jaw, thumb grazing the edge of stubble. "I think you're finally finding yourself." He leaned into her palm, eyes closing for a second. "Maybe I am." They didn't say anything more. There was no rush, no promise, just presence. Eventually, the wind picked up, light and fragrant with crushed herbs and sun-warmed stone. Luca exhaled, then pressed a final kiss to her temple. "We should head back," he murmured, "before Chiara starts sending search parties." Sophia smiled, reluctant but grounded. "Let's go." They walked side by side back toward the house, shoulders brushing now and then. Neither tried to hold hands. Something had shifted, not deflamed, not claimed, but real. The kind of closeness that no photograph could capture. Only memory. Only breath. Only now.